Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's our final local pairings. So if you have been with us for all four, thank you. If you are just joining us for the first time, thank you. Tonight is going to be a really special and interesting one because it is something that I know nothing about, which hasn't happened. It doesn't often happen that you're at your own job and you don't know anything about it. So I'm really excited to participate and learn and hear things new. So let me share with you what we're going to learn about. We have with us tonight Vic Rivera. He is a native Rockfordian, and I'll let him tell a little bit more about it, but basically he has been archiving Latino music that was produced here in Rockford. So it's a type of music that we don't often get to listen to and talk about at the symphony, but it's very much a part of the musical fabric of our community. And so we're really excited to share that. Hosting this conversation with Vic is our principal timpanist, Simón Gómez. And Simón he plays timpani for us now, he's played percussion. So he's gonna help guide this conversation, breaking down some of those rhythms from us from that perspective, but also as a Colombian man, so understands a little bit of this Latino music himself as well. So I'm gonna turn it over to both of them and let them get started. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Margot, and thanks for having us, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm super excited to speak with Vic, and yes, I also am learning a lot. I mean, I was totally surprised, surprised, maybe greatly surprised of all this like Latino original music that Vic has been digitizing, and he's gonna tell us a little bit more about it. So the Vic, welcome. And why don't we start a little bit? First of all, let me ask you, what do you play? What are your main instruments, and how do you get started playing those instruments?
Well, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Vic Rivera. I'm a native of Rockford. I've been in Rockford for all my life, basically, and I really love it here, and I love the culture, and I love the community, and this is a great opportunity to bridge those communities. I play a variety of instruments, not the greatest, but I know my way around like a piano. I could play a trumpet, I could play a sax, a few percussion instruments, more of a background percussionist. But I myself and my two brothers, we got started from my dad. My dad played guitar. He's self-taught guitar player, and he played a lot as a hobby when he was a lot younger. But eventually, he became a part of several groups, and they performed quite a bit here in Rockford for a variety of different events.
Hmm. And so it's just fascinating to me that you guys play a lot of instruments. You were even telling me that your brother also is like a really multifaceted musician. He plays like everything. And, that's something I kind of miss a little bit, as an orchestral musician. We're trained from very early on. Like, you get started on the violin and you play the violin and you get an orchestra job or you become a soloist, right? That's what you do these days, right? But you guys is more like a family thing. You self-taught yourself how to play an instrument, then you start a band. Maybe your dad is like, hey, Vic, pick up the drums or pick up this thing, and you learn it that way, right? So that's kind of how you guys got started, right?
Yeah, that's 100% true. Like I mentioned, my dad was playing with a lot of gentlemen his age. Once my brothers and myself got a little older, a little bit more disciplined, he basically pointed out instruments for us to play, and he taught us all how to play them all by ear. Um, so, to a degree, we're self-taught, and once we got we surpassed that. We took classes and learned about notes and composition and things like that.
Hmm. Very cool. So Margot, why don't we play that first piece just so everyone gets an idea of what like the music that we're talking about, like kind of the music, some of this music it's similar styles to what you would play in a wedding, on some of these parties and stuff. So we get a little bit of an idea what this sounds like. The first piece, what is it? Quiere matrimonio. Quiero Oh, Quiero More.
Déjame amar, déjame besar tu boca, que no pienso en otra cosa, si no estoy pensando en ti. Déjame amar, déjame besarte fuerte, porque solo pienso en verte, cuando no estás junto a mí.
All right, cool.
Yo quiero
Very cool. So, so Vic, you guys play a lot in, you know, Quiero Novio. That kind of makes me think like, oh, this is probably something you would play at like a wedding or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
is this one of the popular songs, or is it just a song that you found, you know, in some cassette tapes that you digitize?
So this was a popular song 30 years ago because the song was recorded about 30 years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, it's still a classic song. It's a song that still resonates, you know, in any type of gathering. The great thing about Latin rhythms, especially these cumbia Mexican rhythms, are they're meant for couples and they're meant for dancing. And I mean, I hear something like that, and right away I just kind of want to start moving, you know. But yeah, that style, this I believe that song was recorded here in about 1993, and this was, you know, this was like the Selena era, so you could kind of pick up those similarities as far as the female vocalist, and even some of the instruments that are being used are, I would almost say, are very Selena-esque.
So Selena, is that a region in Mexico, or
The singer Selena.
Selena? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. See, we're all learning here. I'm learning. So,
Okay.
so, but you know, I think we talked about this. So I agree with you. The mood is really right away, kind of a dance, kind of for the party situation, right? And I'm gonna talk about the similarities as a Colombian. When I heard
Mhm.
that right away, it sounded like a cumbia, right?
Mhm. Yep.
So you would
Mhm.
refer to it as a cumbia as well.
Yes, yes, sir. Yep.
Right. So that's what I like. That's a style of music that in Colombia grew up. Like cumbia is kind of the national dance,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
some kind of a characteristic of it is like it has this
Mhm.
right. There's an emphasis. It's not just dun 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 to the downbeats, but it's
Yeah.
Can we
Yep.
listen to that one more time, Margot, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
And listen for that and how this cumbia stuff actually in Colombia it would be played those upbeats. It would be one person playing a gaita, which is kind of like an oboe, on the right hand, and a maraca, which I wish I had a maraca here, with the left hand. So it's pretty fascinating what these people can do. But yeah,
You
let's
want to
take
start from the beginning again, or
oh,
pick up where
just
we left off?
pick up where we left off. Yeah.
Sure.
de ti y no descansaré hasta que estés aquí. Cariño, solo quiero estar contigo así y darle lo que guardo para ti. Yo quiero hablar de ti y siento que este amor
Great. That's enough. That's good. So Vic, would that be done with a maraca? Would that effect?
Yeah. There's definitely there's a maraca in there. There's a guiro, and you can hear the cowbell almost on every beat.
Good. And I got some guiros over here.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Anybody figuring out what a guiro is? Is this little instrument here? Actually, yeah, and usually, you know, it tends to have a kind of the guiro. What do you call this? The kind of the beater of the guiro.
Mhm.
I couldn't find one. I found the guiro. I couldn't find the beater of the guiro. It tends to be like more like a fork.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's, you know, this is an instrument that is also in many other forms of Latin music, including a little excerpt that we're gonna share with you guys a little bit later, more of a classical, like within an orchestra Mexican composition. So cool, very cool. Is there anything else about this piece you would like to tell us, Vic?
Oh, whoops. It's just like I mentioned, you know, cumbia is such a diverse rhythm, Cumbia is actually an African word,
Mm.
cumbe. It's an African rhythm. At the core of it, it's an African rhythm.
Mm.
And it moved up the Caribbeans, moved up South America. And I want to say that in Colombia, in Bogota, is where it really picked up like a structure, song structure. I believe in Africa it was more like a free form, people just kind of gathering, playing instruments, kind of jumping in as they please, congregating. But I believe when they got to Colombia area, it became more of a how we know popular music, chorus and lyrics and things of that nature. Probably closer to the 60s is when they got to Mexico. And when they got to Mexico, it even further expanded with the advent of synthesizers and just people creating and thinking differently and adding now the traditions of Mexico. And then here we are in 2021, and the music is that rhythm is still growing. Now from Mexico into Texas, totally different style. From Texas even to Chicago, completely different styles. But at the core of it, cumbia is still, it's that same rhythm. It's that guiro. It's that one and the two and the one and the two and the one and the two. That's really the heart and soul of cumbia. It's just, it can be interpreted in so many ways, and it's just fantastic. It's a fantastic rhythm.
Yeah, it's amazing how all this, it's kind of a melting pot, even, up here. Like that's what the genre becomes too.
Mm-hmm.
And these cumbias, just something else that is a similarity between both countries is that they're played a lot in like weddings, and there's these specific parties that are more like quinceañera parties that
Mm-hmm.
perhaps are not as popular in certain American circles, but like from this Latino culture, the quinceañera is they're these parties for like 15-year-old
Mm-hmm.
women, and I don't necessarily know. I mean, I guess it's like a rite of passage when they become like women. I don't know exactly, but it's a big party in most Latin American countries, and I can't imagine that, having a full banda, like, like what you guys would have, like a group, would make it really fun to have one of these parties.
Oh yeah. A quinceañera is when the it's basically from when a girl turns into a woman at the age of 15. I would parallel it to a bar mitzvah, in the Jewish
Right.
culture.
Right.
Very similar. It's a big party, a big dress, almost looks like a big wedding dress. And it's basically a girl's farewell from childhood into womanhood. Now, back in those days, girls were getting married at 15, 100 years ago. That much has changed. It's not really, they don't do that no more, but there's still a huge celebration. And so, like my dad, for instance, when he came in the 70s, people were still bringing their cultures to Rockford, specifically. But there was no one to service them. There was no bands that played Spanish music. There wasn't DJs at that time, how we know DJs today. So that was another reason why he got together with some of his friends and they started playing cover songs to perform at these parties, because there was a huge necessity for it. 40 years ago, there wasn't very many musicians. So my dad and his group had the ability to play at a lot of these parties. And to this day, those parties are still huge. They're still a big part of our culture. And they're non-existent without music. The music just sets the pace for the entire night. Be it cumbia rhythms, be it ballads, be it stuff that's more fast-paced. It's really, aside from the young lady celebrating her day, the music is probably second in the importance of that ceremony.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I second that. I mean, like, it's been a little while since I was in a party like that, but some of my classmates when I was in high school, they had quinceañera parties. And I have to tell you, some of these parties, and including weddings, when you have a full band of real people playing, like, these days in weddings, you get a lot of like DJs and stuff like that, which is one person kind of managing the party, and they can kind of sense the mood and stuff, but there's nothing like having a full band. If there's a moment at the night where a balada feels appropriate,
Yeah.
that's definitely I feel like it's like kind of like music, you know, like there's a reason for us to still exist even if computers can do it all, you know.
Yeah, those live performances really, I think, test the boundaries of a musician, because nothing is scripted. You know, there's not really a set list. You're really going off the mood of the people. You know, if everyone's dancing, and you know, you got to think quickly, okay, should we stop and say we're going to play a next song, or should we just go right into it, and how are we going to figure this out? You know, a lot of really in the moment type of performing. And you got to remember, you know, there's so many songs that people want to hear, and you know, we're playing them live. You know, we're doing actual covers in person. Oh, the groom's drunk, he wants to sing a song. Do you guys know this song? No, but we'll play it anyways. You know, but that shows the degree of musicianship and knowing these styles. Because if you know the foundations of all these styles, at least you know the more popular ones, you can really navigate your way through a lot of the songs that you may not know.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome, and maybe we should get a little more of a taste. Like maybe what's the next song? Is it Me Gusta? I think Me Gusta, but
Okay.
that's a good amount of group. Give you.
Me gusta cómo te mueves, güerito. Me gusta cómo bailas tan sensual. Me gusta cómo mueves las caderas. Con este ritmo que está sin igual. Me gusta.
Great. So that's more of a fast-paced kind of. Everyone is dancing a little faster, and I picked this one because I could really hear that guiro. So if you're listening attention,
Yep.
I have the real guiro beater now, and honestly, it's like I have to practice. I cannot quite do it that fast, but these guiro players, believe it or not, a simple instrument like this, if you go on YouTube and you look guiro players, you know, this is fantastic. They're just technique. Let me see. I'm sorry, I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I just wanted to show you guys the instrument. Would you agree with me, Vic, that there's some really good guiro players? I mean, you would be better than me at guiro. I'm a timpanist, remember?
The guiro is such an interesting instrument, because it's not very celebrated, I would say, on this side. But you know, Latin America and Mexico, it's a driving instrument. And it's just so funny to me that some of the driving instruments in Mexico here are not looked at that way. So like the guiro, for instance, the accordion, which is huge, the tuba, which is like, you know, guys who play a tuba in Mexico are like regarded as demigods, because they hold the whole rhythm. They hold, you know, it's the bass player. And yeah, to go back to your point, the guiro is just such an important instrument when it comes to, I think, rhythm in general, be it Latin rhythms, African rhythms. It's such a detrimental part of these orchestrations.
Yeah, so I also have another guiro. This one is more of a wooden one here. So the guiros can be like a metallic thing, really, and it's a wooden one. So you can see that it's got these rivets here. So sometimes if you have a more kind of relaxed, a little more mellow sound when you get this one. Okay. Good. Maybe let's listen a little bit more. And I believe there was another instrument there, you know, that is also kind of the cowbell. I believe, I don't know if it's in the next song that I heard it, but maybe it was in the previous one. But this also kind of, these instruments also connect to like kind of a more of Cuban tradition also. Like these are all related, right? So Vic, how about the cowbell and the güiro? Were they originally from Mexico, or did they get through also kind of like the cumbia from African roots? Do you know anything about this?
To my knowledge, it definitely came from Africa, from the southern part of Latin America, and it moved its way up. I know in Mexico there are certain percussions. It definitely wasn't a güiro. Probably more or less like maracas and certain types of like congos, you know, stuff that you would hit with your hand. But yeah, I think the güiro is probably more or less African, you know, South Latin America.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is gonna connect eventually when we show this orchestra piece. I want to show it a little bit later when we talk a little bit more how even classical composers have taken all these influences, right? So when you look at a piece, this piece that I would like to you guys to see in a little bit, also by Marquez, is called Danzón Number 2, which is become a really popular piece in the classical repertoire. We're gonna see a güiro, we're gonna see a claves, and and then you must ask, like, where did Marquez take this inspiration from, right?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, speaking with you, I'm realizing how much more prevalent these instruments were in Mexico itself.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
You know, so maybe Marquez heard it from a band in Mexico itself, or maybe he heard like a Cuban band. You know, it's hard to tell. But why don't we cue that video, Margot? It's the YouTube video, maybe like a minute and a half in.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Okay. Share that over.
Oh, right there. Right there's the güiro.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So, Vic, what do you think? This is Vic. We didn't plan this. You didn't see this until now.
Yeah.
Do you hear some similarities in this
absolutely.
piece? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think when that güiro came in, I would consider that like you would call that a break in certain styles of music where most of the instruments kick out and the rhythm section really drives. So danzón, that's more I would say like Argentinian, Bolivian culture, but it's a beautiful style of music and it's accompanied by a very beautiful dance. You know, the guys dress very zoot suit style. The dames wear like these beautiful dresses, flowers in their hair, and they dance. So I would imagine that that part of the song, they're doing something crazy, or all the attention is emphasized on the woman. Maybe it's a lot of spinning or something of that nature. But that style is accompanied by a very elegant dance. Danzón, if anyone has any time to YouTube that later, it's a great style of music that's accompanied by a beautiful dance.
That's fascinating, and you see, I'm learning from this. You see, when I play danzón, I used to just think, okay, Marquez, this Mexican composer, was taking influences from Cuban music, right?
Mhm,
That's
mhm,
what I thought, even as a Latino percussionist. But I'm learning from you that it comes from Argentina and Bolivia and South America.
mhm.
So I think this is fascinating, and I think that it can be very effective in the case of Marquez in this danzón. I mean, American audiences love this piece,
Oh, absolutely.
and I love playing it. I've played that Guiro part before, um, and it's actually not as hard as some Guiro parts that we're listening in the in the music. You do have to practice sometimes, So so you guys see my motion here. So there's a little. I hope that was not too painful for you guys to listen to, but there's a little technique sometimes to the Guiro playing.
And you have to really take into consideration that you have to hold that rhythm, for whatever the duration of the song is, or maybe it's a potpourri of songs. You have to hold that rhythm, because that guido being thrown off will throw off another musician, will throw off the drummer. It'll throw off anyone. It'll throw off the dancers, because I've seen this happen. Obviously, when you're dancing to music, you're dancing to rhythm. So if that guido is not syncopated, it can really ruin your set.
Yes, yes. No, I've been there before where and you're getting tired. And as my teacher used to say, no pain, no gain. So you have to keep going, So anyways. Okay, good. So why don't we check out the next piece, Margot? The next piece we had queued up was called Yolanda.
Yes.
Cuando te vi por primera vez, aquel momento no puedo olvidar. Cuando te vi por primera vez, aquel momento no puedo olvidar. Y me la paso pensando en ti, sin olvidar tu manera de mirar. Me la paso pensando en ti, sin olvidarte nunca jamás. Yolanda, sabes que te quiero, Yolanda, que por ti me muero, Yolanda, sabes que te quiero, Yolanda, y me desespero.
Okay, good. Awesome. So two things I want to ask you about. So we have a few new instruments that I didn't hear before on this one, right? We got the congas.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And we got the timbales, I think, too.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, these instruments are typically known as more like Cuban, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you, the congas are just like, natural skins. That's the one we play with our hands, with the palm of our hands, right? And the timbales are these two kind of small timpani, right? Not the big kettle drums, the two small timbales, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And you play them on the shell. You just pretend it's the shell of the drum. You kind of play them a little on the side, kind of like that. And you get that metallic sound, and occasionally you hit the head too. You get two different sounds. So, Vic, I always thought of this as Cuban instruments, but let's say if you're playing in the band with your parents and, you need a percussionist, can you sit in on congas and you play timbales too, and can you play all this stuff?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I mean, it's really, like the way that we learned is to really feel, like this music that I've really dedicated my last few years to learning more about. It's something that's just really embedded in my body and my spirit, and there's just no way around it. So, like I said, I may not be the greatest at certain instruments, but I know I can navigate my way through a lot of these styles. And yeah, with those rhythms, with congas and timbales and güiro and maracas, like I can get it done if it has to get done.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. If you ask me, I think I could too, but it would be really simple. Really, I'll just
Mhm.
I'll just keep it super simple because I'm also trained to keep the rhythm.
Right.
That being said, I wish I would have had the freedom of like sitting down in an afternoon with your family and playing some tunes with your parents and just being like and adding some little break that sounds really good, right? I feel like our training as orchestral musicians is a little bit more like this is what's on the page, this is what the composer wanted, you know? And
Yeah.
sometimes, and for the most part, for 98% of the pieces, 99% of the pieces, that's what you need to do as an orchestral player, right? Like you
Sure.
play what's on the page to the best of your ability. But occasionally, you get a cool piece like a Marquez, or
Mhm.
you get a cool piece by like a Cuban composer who writes, who just says tumbao, right? He
Yeah.
writes it, or like when you see a jazz chart, like they just tell you swing or tumbao, and you gotta do a little variation, change it up a little bit, add a little something. So sometimes as an orchestral percussionist, I wish I had more of that improvisation
Sure.
skill that you guys have.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, improvising is huge. One of my favorite quotes from a movie, a child movie, was Toy Story when Buzz Lightyear was falling, and Woody says, "He's not flying, he's falling with style." So I wanted to say that we've mastered falling with style. I can honestly say that I've never made a mistake musically that anyone knows about. And I could say that on behalf of my brother and my dad. But to your point, even though we learned by ear, we learned, I guess, a street way, we definitely always yearned for more, more technique, to be faster, to be more proficient, more knowledge of composition and notes. And we know some stuff to a degree, but it's also amazing to me learning, like the fact that you're a timpanist. I think that's super amazing, and I commend you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. No, thanks so much. I love what you said about falling with style. I
Mhm.
mean, that's what we're there for. Not we're not there to fall in style, but we're there to share music to make people happy, to um, express some emotion, right? And nobody's going to a concert like, oh, he missed a note, he made a mistake. Nobody. So it's really kind of like a party. Like, when I heard that last Yolanda composition, um, I could right away picture people just dancing. Um, in terms of form, like there was a chorus right away, like that little excerpt that we heard. There was this thing. Do we call that the chorus when it says Yolanda, da 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 da,
Yeah, yeah, that
Yolanda?
was the chorus. Yep.
Okay. I wonder if we should listen to that again a little bit. So everyone so let's listen for like there's a moment when the music changes.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah,
Okay.
from the beginning. Let's go listen from the beginning and let's see if we can catch where the chorus comes in.
Yes.
This is kind of the intro, right?
Yeah.
Cuando te vi por primera vez, aquel momento no puedo olvidar. Cuando te vi por primera vez, aquel momento no puedo olvidar. Y me la paso pensando en ti, sin olvidar tu manera de mirar. Me la paso pensando en ti, sin olvidarte nunca jamás. Yolanda, sabes que te quiero, Yolanda.
Right there, the chorus, right?
Yolanda, sabes que te quiero, Yolanda. Y me desespero.
And there's probably, if we keep going, there's probably the story continues probably. I'm
Yes,
thinking,
correct.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great piece because it has this intermission, which would be for a percussionist to kind of get a little crazy on. That after that Yolanda and it kind of cuts off, that intermission is it's probably meant for someone to play timbales and really, steal the show, if you will. And I like when songs have those breaks like that and that type of structure.
Yeah. So if you know Spanish, maybe you would know what the words were, but pretty much this whole song is about Yolanda. It's the name of a woman, right? And the introduction. So we have a little intro, and then the singer starts saying, "Ever since I saw you," pretty much he falls for Yolanda, right? And then the chorus is kind of talking about, Yolanda. It says the name, and ever since I saw you, Yolanda, and like just kind of, just pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's at the core of it, it's just such a simple song, and it's just a guy, he's writing about a girl to a cumbia rhythm, and it has a nice call and response aspect to it. And yeah, it's a piece that I really like. I would consider this more of a traditional cumbia in terms of the instruments that are being used. Not too heavy on like synthesizers or even the rhythm of it is pretty like mellow. It's a very mellow paced song.
Yeah, I love it. Sounds great. Let's see, what else do we have here? So can you tell us a little bit about, so we've talked about some percussion instruments, but I think maybe a unique instrument for those things is the accordion too. You mentioned the accordion really quick. Can you tell us a little bit about the accordion, and do you play the accordion too?
I'm teaching myself how to play the button accordion. I could play the key accordion because it's the same as a piano. It's 2 octaves. The accordion is such a huge instrument in Mexico and to Mexicans in the United States. I would parallel it to a rock guitarist, to like Jimi Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen. Like these accordions are revered as those to that standard. The accordion is a European instrument. It came from Germany, and this was maybe the early 1900s in Mexico. Before the First World War, they were building train tracks, and a lot of the workers came from Germany, Lithuania, and Poland, and they brought with them an accordion. And it was just really, it's honestly as simple as just intermingling, picking up, on lunch breaks, they would have to sleep probably close to the tracks, probably drinking beers around the campfire. And the Mexicans picked up the accordion and just ran with it and created so many different styles. The most popular style is a style called a corrido, which means a runner, which it translates to runner. And these are songs that are passed down from generation to generation. There are a lot of songs about bandits and drug dealers and these extravagant stories that a lot of times the songs passed along campfires actually hold more information than even certain books and encyclopedias, because these are stories that have been told from the people who lived it, explained in the form of music to other people. And a lot of these songs are still very relevant in our culture to this day.
Very, very cool. Somebody was asking, Vic, is cumbia similar to Tejano music?
Oh, absolutely. Tejano music is such an interesting style of music. Tejano is like a slang for Texan. Tejano music started in Texas. So you have to remember that at a certain point in time, Texas was Mexico, and then a line was put there at some point. But a lot of Mexicans stayed in Texas, and they created their own culture in Texas. If anyone's ever visited Texas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin, you'll see that for yourself. It's not too American traditional, and it's not too Mexican traditional. It's Texas. So they created their own style of music, and they took elements of cumbia, and they took elements of corridos, and they took elements of banda and made their own style. And on top of that, the most interesting thing about Tejano music is that they took influence also from jazz and from soul. And Tejano music is really, really this melting pot of music, and it's a very interesting style. It's another style that I really I enjoy listening to. It's not very big in the Midwest, but in Texas, it's huge. You could be a Tejano music artist and live in Texas and just tour the Texas circuit, and you'll be fine.
Wow, wow, fascinating. Um, if there's a corrido piece, so I'm not super familiar with the corridos, but if there's a corrido in that SoundCloud, that'd be cool to listen to. I don't think we have listened to a corrido so far, right, Vic?
Let me see. Yeah, no, we haven't. Let me take a look here. We might have one on there. The song called La Miel Amarga.
Okay.
Let's see if DJ Margo can find it.
Yep.
So,
All right.
¿Qué sería de mi vida si tú me dejaras? ¿Qué sería de mi vida si tú te marcharas? ¿Qué sería de mi vida, amorcito de mi alma? Yo te juro que todo para mí terminaba.
cool. Very nice. Yeah, so it seems like so a corrido. If I got it right, it's in 1, 2, 3, 1. Is
Yeah,
that right?
yep.
Is that all corridos?
Overall, yeah. I mean, they do
Overall.
kind of fluctuate, but that's kind of, yeah, the core of it. Corridos really, I imagine for you wouldn't be too exciting because there's really no emphasis too much on the percussion. It's really just, boom, boom. The real driving elements would be the accordion and the guitar, and usually the content of what's being sung. And like I mentioned before, a lot of stories, a lot of tall tales are what are the core of these songs.
Yeah, more like so. It sounded to me right away. Maybe influences of waltzes coming from Europe.
Oh yeah,
1,
yeah.
2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
Good.
And that's how you would dance that too. If you were at a Mexican party or just a function where there was Mexican music, when they play that style of music, it's a waltz.
Absolutely. So for everyone here, just to clarify, so the waltzes tend to be in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 in 3. What we call maybe 3/4 or 3/8 in in traditional music writing. Very cool, very interesting. Well, if there's any other piece that you think we should check out, I think that's a good idea. But I mean, so far, I think it's just been fascinating, just kind of learning, and it's incredible that all this stuff was recorded in Rockford, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So all these influences, all these Mexican influences and Latin, clearly some influences from even Bolivia and Argentina, make it all the way to Rockford, and you guys, it's still like there you found these recordings, and you guys are keeping it alive by playing some of these styles of like weddings and evolving this stuff, and it's just fascinating. I really hopefully now that the pandemic is winding down, you guys get a lot more weddings and quinceañera parties to play all this fun stuff.
Nick, there's a question in the chat. Can you tell us a little more about the archival program or project that you're working on right now?
Sure. So my family and I, we've been involved in music for over 30 years. And obviously in those 30 years, so much has changed, from records to 8-tracks to cassettes to CDs, from VHS tapes to VHS-C to high 8. There's all these different forms of media where you get to a point where you can't even play your own videos or your own music because you no longer have those things to play them on. So what I started doing was just archiving old videos that we had and old tapes, just so I could put them on the hard drive and I could just have them to play whenever I want to. I gave a copy to my dad and to my brothers. But it's just really it's been a passion project, and on top of doing that for myself personally, I've been uploading stuff and I'm going to continue to upload stuff, for free. Like, this is just stuff I want to share with the community, because it's fun for me, it's fascinating for me, but I think a lot of people would get a sense of enjoyment, and also can see the history behind it, because there's so much history in our small town, Rockford. There's so much Mexican and Latin history, and I think it's just important to share, and it's just fun. It's a lot of fun for me.
100%. What a great project. That's very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, as Marco said in the chat, this is a good moment if you guys have any other questions for us. Just feel free. Anything about percussion instruments, about styles, about anything. Vic, so how are you seeing come
Sorry.
we lost Vic. Is it the light you have to move?
Yeah.
Okay. So how are you seeing, coming out of the pandemic, how are you seeing like performing opportunities for you guys, for your family? Like, are you starting to see some picking up of opportunities?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm starting to see a lot of opportunities picking up around me. Friends of mine, people that I know of, are starting to take gigs. Thankfully, we're at the time of the year where we can be outside. So if being inside is still something that you're not comfortable with, there's so many great outdoor venues that are now being more utilized than they were before. People are now more relaxed as far as permits and stuff to close down streets, and be able to block off streets to host outdoor events. So I think it's a great time. It's for live music, because I feel like people are starting to utilize these spaces that we didn't utilize before, and I see it picking up, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what a lot of people, musicians, have been working on, what they've been practicing on. It's exciting for me, as just a fan of music, and hopefully get some dancing soon or something. That'd be nice.
So yes, I see a question um, from Margot here. Are there events with live music happening in Rock for the summer that we can add to our calendars to experience this live?
I know stuff is popping up. I will keep you posted personally. Um, but there's definitely things in the works. I know Levin's Lake, they're going to start doing things on one Sunday out the month. They've done it, for the last few years, and it's a free event at Levin's Lake Park. I know that's coming up. They have 2 shows already. They have 2 dates booked already. I'll keep you posted. Maybe you could share it on your page. But when they do those at the park, they bring in a variety of Latin music, and it's something for everybody. It's family friendly, and again, it's outside. It's in a huge park. So, for people who are a little uncomfortable with being too close proximity, there's plenty of space, and the music resonates all through the park. So I could definitely keep you and everyone here posted about that.
Awesome, absolutely. And then Julie Thomas, she's asking, do you see opportunities for collaboration with the RSO? And I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of cool. Recently I heard Mariachi Vargas. Have you heard of Mariachi Vargas?
Oh yeah. Mhm.
So they have traveled around. They have performed with some orchestras. So I think there's already a little precedent from collaborations. But
Oh yeah.
man, it would be cool to see what could be done together. I think that would be very cool.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. I think a lot of people would enjoy that, and even like the styles, like the danzón style, the mariachi style, mixed and then orchestral form would be amazing, and would be a great collaboration to diversify. It'd be just something that a lot of people haven't seen, and to be able to see that, and especially here in Rockford, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, let me add on to that. A collaboration could take 2 different forms, right? It could be, I think, where you and your band are kind of sharing the stage, yet we play at different moments, right? Like you play a danzón with an orchestra, and then you guys can play a danzón yourself. So we play a waltz and you guys play a waltz, you know,
Yeah,
you play a corrido. Yeah, I agree with that. The Marquez Danzón would be great for an RSO program. I agree. That'd be really nice. And I believe Steve. I think maybe Maestro Larson. I think he composed. He programmed it at some point. I remember seeing him program it. Does Latin music ever use ukulele? I'll let you answer that, Vic. You're the expert.
not super common, but I have heard it in cumbias. Like I mentioned before, with cumbia, even though the core of it to a degree is very simple rhythm, the evolution of that music is just it's beyond me, because it's gone in so many different ways. You know, people mix it with with hip hop and with country and with just so many different styles. So I know I've heard it with ukulele before, and I think it's only a matter of time before the rest of us hear what that sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, let's see. Yep, Margot, you had a question?
You had one more musical example selected. I don't know if you wanted to listen to that while
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
While people are maybe thinking of some final questions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Mira cómo ando, mi amor, con tu querer. Borracha y apasionada, no más por tu amor. Mira cómo ando, mi bien, muy dada a la borrachera y a la perdición. Tú, solo tú.
Awesome. You see, when you play this, I'm picturing it's maybe the end of the night, you know? And,
Yeah.
And, right? And maybe some people have had their drinks and they wanna and somebody starts singing this, and you see some woman who's dancing who had the drinks starts, you know, yelling, kind of singing in a pretty loud voice, and people join with, so, you know, do solo, and they start singing the chorus together. I could picture that. Is that
I think you've lived it.
Yes, I think so too.
I think you've been there. Yeah, well, that's definitely one of those end of the night, you know, 1:59 in the morning type of songs. That's actually more or less a mariachi song, just with a rhythm. Because even though there's a keyboard in it, traditionally the song, you can hear the keyboard playing strings, and you can also hear the keyboard playing horns. Traditionally, it would be real strings and real horns. So that's really, you know, yeah, it's more or less a mariachi song, just given a little bit more backbone to make it more danceable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. You know, just like listening to that music, even though, so is this another piece I was recording in the 70s? You know, I recognize the style. I'm not sure if I've heard the song specifically. Probably not, but the style kind of survives and keeps thriving, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a very recognizable song. You'll know the style when you hear it, and you'll know how to act accordingly to it, be it you're dancing or be it you're drinking at the bar. And some of these songs, you know, being Mexican, like, we have so much connection to a lot of these songs that there's certain songs that I won't play for myself because I might get too emotional. Or there's songs that people request to be played when they're buried, and I've been there for a lot of these situations. Mm-hmm. So we really draw huge connection to a lot of this music. It's really so much more than people would think. You know, it resonates in our core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Somebody asked about the Marquez. You know, that could be the YouTube recording that I shared. I wanted to share Dudamel, and I think that's a great it's a great performance, right? Dudamel is Venezuelan, and he's got a Venezuelan orchestra. So that's why I wanted to share that recording. But let me see if I can find perhaps a better recording. Oh, there's a great recording here that I'm gonna copy the link for you guys to. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna share it with you guys so everyone has a nice version of the Danzón in case you want to listen. Good. Well, if anybody has any other questions, please. We got like 4 minutes, Margot.
Yes. I have to say, the Dudamel video that you shared, what I loved about it was the orchestra was moving while they were playing. That doesn't happen in America so much.
Yeah, I think we're a little more concerned about precision over here. Over there, they really felt, they really feel those rhythms, and it's almost like you're in one of those parties Vic was describing.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the rhythms from Mexico and from Latin America just are contagious, and you really must not have a sense of rhythm or any type of joy in yourself if you can't hear some of this music and not react in some form of manner, whether it's just tapping your toe or bobbing your head or just completely full out dancing. And it's one of my favorite parts, if not the most favorite part of Mexican music and performing, is that you'll hear the first note and immediately know what it is and report to the dance floor. And it's such a beautiful culture to me. Mexican parties and dances is one of the remaining cultures that I see where men actually still ask women to dance, like very cordially. And I think it's so amazing. And that's really truly fascinating to me, seeing people like, will you dance with me? It's almost mind-boggling because it's so uncommon nowadays.
Mhm. Great. Well, I learned a lot. I hope everybody else did too. And Vic, great to meet you. And
Yeah,
thanks for
absolutely.
sharing everything. Yeah.
Thank you
Yes,
for having
thank you
me.
guys both so much. I have learned so much. I am excited. I have heard of the Sundays in the Park at Lovings Lake for years, and I've never made it to one, and I'm feeling very inspired to get over there and experience this live. I think the energy from it is something that is just what we need to enter into a new, hopefully new healthy phase of our lives.
Absolutely.
It'll bring us the emotional health and healing that we need.
I think so. I think
can hear Domingo in El Parque from my house.
Oh, Linnell, how fun is that?
It's
Very
loud
cool.
enough you could hear it anywhere in the park because I can hear it at my house.
Well, I think on that note, we're going to wrap up, but just thank you guys again so much. This has been such a great conversation, and I hope that it's one that we can continue in another format. I think it's really important to celebrate all the music in our region, not just the orchestral music, but I think, we're here because we love music, and there's so much going on with this Latin music and the rhythms and the perspectives that you guys have both offered. I know I've really, really enjoyed. So thank you both so, so much. And thank you to all of you that tuned in with us this evening. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did.
Likewise. Thanks so much, Margot.
All right, have a
Vic.
great evening, everyone.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.